Hello, I am David Saunders, Head of Client Development for Connexo. Over the last couple of months, we have been speaking with heads of legal operations about the pandemic, the impact on their legal teams, and their plans for the future. For this discussion today, I am delighted to be joined by Charandeep Kaur, Chief of Staff and Senior Director of Legal Operations at Juniper Networks.
Thanks for having me here, David.
And today we thought we would cover work volumes and strategies to cope with these, legal technology and lessons learned through implementation, remote working, and team culture and predictions for 2021. So before we get into all of that, it would be great to hear a little bit more about your legal team.
Thanks, David. So our legal team at Juniper comprises of about a little over 100 people at this point, and we are a global team dispersed across the globe. And we have a good representation of attorneys and other legal professionals. We are about, at this point about 50-50, in how we are spaced. And we are slightly different from some other legal organizations in that we also have some non-traditional functions like environment, health, and safety as part of the organization. But other than that, it's fairly representative with, a group comprising of corporate, employment, in ethics and integrity, commercial, IP, as well as legal operations.
Very helpful. Thank you very much. And when we look back over the last 10 months or so, Charandeep, and the work type that's been coming into the legal team in particular, have you noticed any changes that have been caused by the pandemic?
There certainly have been changes in some areas, as you would expect, David, especially in employment, in the area of employment, as well as our environment, health, and safety group, which is responsible for the well-being of our employees worldwide. That said, there hasn't been, I wouldn't say there's been a significant shift of work for us as a direct result of COVID-19. We've had other business reasons and other business impetuses, like, we've had a ton of M&A activity this year, which has resulted in a lot of additional work and a different kind of work for us. But overall, I wouldn't say that COVID-19 has resulted in a significant shift of work for us.
We've been hearing from other teams that they have been applying a laser-light focus to ensuring that the in-house team is focused on doing the most strategic work. Is that something that you've been looking at too?
Absolutely. That's a continued focus for us. Even before COVID-19, we have leveraged a global workforce. We've leveraged alternative legal service providers. We leverage process optimization and automation to a large degree to make sure that we're doing the most strategic work in the most efficient way possible. And so there's always that, in the last few months, we've also done this exercise. We call it like the start, stop, shift exercise, where we are, just looking at what we are doing and then examining, if that's strategic, if there is something that we need to pick up, something that needs to be shifted or, stopped entirely. So it's an ongoing exercise and an ongoing focus for us, David.
And you mentioned technology, Charandeep, and I know that this is an area that you have invested in significantly over the last 18 months. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Technology is a big passion of mine. I have my background in technology and computer science, and I just think that it can just has a great potential to optimize the operations of any legal department. So we've definitely invested quite a bit in it. We have our own legal analytics solution that we've developed in-house. Over the last 18 months or so, there's been a lot of focus on bringing in technologies to optimize our contracting processes with the implementation of a new CLM tool. We've definitely increased focus on our collaboration technologies, as well as technologies or building platforms to enhance knowledge management, which, as you would imagine, has become even more important than ever, because we are not all in the office where it's just easier to have conversations and ask where certain resources might be. So that's in another area where we are starting to invest in right now.
Have you learned lessons along the way in terms of implementing technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first one absolutely being, um, people have this, I've seen this time and again, this notion of just when they see a problem, like just jumping into finding a technology solution. And what I've learned over the years is many times, where there is a problem, um, the process optimization can go a long way before you jump into getting a new technology to solve the problem. So looking at your process first, and seeing whether there is a way to optimize it, possibly even without bringing in technology, is definitely a first starting point, and something that we've leveraged and actually successfully in the past. And because anytime you bring in a new technology, there is a lot of effort that goes in implementing it, and like the change management with people adopting to learn a new technology, that certainly brings its own burden. So certainly evaluate your processes as they exist now to see if those could be optimized before you jump into looking for a technology.
And one of the things that we've talked about, Charandeep, is the importance of choosing a provider who's willing to evolve with you during the course of a project.
Yeah, that's absolutely critical as well. As you know, David, when you're implementing a project, no matter how much effort you put upfront in identifying the requirements, significant projects like a CLM implementation, which are typically multi-year, multifaceted, typically evolve over time. So to get a provider who's willing to evolve with you, being fair to the provider as well, but somebody who's not really set in stone and who's willing to evolve with the requirements and work with you is absolutely critical.
And others have also said that good communication and early stakeholder engagement has been key.
Yes, can't stress that enough. Making sure that you engage with your critical stakeholders early on and often enough, making them feel part of the solution design, it goes a long way with the change management and the successful rollout of any implementation.
Remote working's been a key part of life for all of us over the last 10 months or so. How's it been for the Juniper Networks legal team?
So it's not easy for anyone, having kids at home and just dealing with, just all the different stresses that it's the situation has brought upon us is not easy. That said, I've got to admit, like we've had a full year, almost a full year behind us now, and we've been able to look back and see what we achieved in 2020. And it's mind boggling how much work was done and how productive the teams have been. People are definitely working harder than ever, than before. So in terms of productivity, I'd say that there hasn't been a loss. I think on the contrary, like we've just achieved, like just managed to achieve great results in the last year. That said, cannot wait to go back, to how things were before. It's never going to be. It doesn't seem like it's going to be how things were before. Monday to Friday, going in every day or most days, but maybe a happy mix of having that social interaction at work and being able to meet and like talk about solutions and problems, and while being also able to balance that with some work from home, because that definitely brings its own perks as well, not having to commute into work and everything else. So I hope we get to a place where we have a happy mix of both.
I completely agree with that. And you've been doing some really good stuff to maintain the culture within the team as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's definitely been a focus for us. And, I certainly believe that it's the tone from the top that matters the most. And we're extremely lucky to have a leader like our General Counsel, Brian Martin, at the helm of the department during these extremely trying times. He's a really empathetic and supportive leader who's helped to set the right tone. So, we use the OKR framework for our strategic planning, and we've had very specific OKRs around building team culture and making sure people feel supported. So we've really stepped up the number and the frequency of employee events that we have, and we don't make it mandatory, but for the people who need that, went or that kind of those forums, they have those available. Um, we've always done lunch and learns, to enhance people's substantive knowledge and business knowledge. But, lately we've also expanded that to doing sessions on, we recently did a session on sound healing and mindfulness. So expanded those to these areas as well. We've compiled resources that we've made available to the Juniper legal team from some LinkedIn learning resources and other resources on again, mindfulness, resilience, coping with stress, meditation. And we make these available for people who need them, who could leverage them. So all of this, I think, has gone a long way. Our employee engagement results and scores were at an all-time high when we did this, when we measured them at the end of last year. So I feel like we're at a good place.
And finally, Charandeep, your predictions for your legal team for 2021.
Yes, I think as COVID continues to put pressures on the finances of everybody in the industry, really, I think the industry will continue to look for process optimization and to leverage technology to bring in, to make our processes more efficient and to make sure that the teams are able to focus on the most strategic aspects of their work. I also think that companies, including ourselves, like we'll be compelled to look at our back to office strategy, because I can't imagine we'll go back to work as we were doing before. And, looking at what roles truly need to be in the office versus who can operate remotely, I think it's going to be something that we'll all have to think about. So I think that we'll see a lot more of that in 2021.
Thank you so much, Charandeep. That has been an excellent run through of the impact that the pandemic has had on a global legal team, the solutions you are deploying to ease that impact, and your predictions for 2021. I was particularly interested in all the technology investment that you've been undertaking in the last 18 months or so. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me here, David.